One, get in your car and get down there. I'm serious. Two, it breaks my heart because, that's where my family's at. But we get strength in knowing that we got four wheels that can hit the rubber. It's just a couple days drive. Or two, you understand tithe and offerings, right? Tithe is what you give to the church. Offering is above and beyond. Okay, that comes out of your heart. An offering is not usually something easy to give because you have a choice to offer it or not. So if you want to give to Texas or you want your money to be directed there, then you need to write that on your check that needs to go to Texas. All right, we do have a GoFundMe page. We're trying to I'm sorry, it's on Facebook and PayPal to me. Well, anyways. I don't know how much we have there yet. But I want to thank, George texted me this morning and I've listened to other people, and I want to thank your guys' hearts because it's really easy to get on an island and think, listen, when I was in Hawaii, I wasn't worried about anybody. The world could have gone in a handbasket and I'd have been okay because I was in Hawaii sitting on an island eating what I wanted to eat, drinking what I wanted to drink. I wasn't drinking liquor, I'm just saying. Just having a good time. But we have to remember our brothers and sisters out there. They do need help. And I've had countless texts, from people that work for our company, kind of letting me know what's going on down there. And it's havoc. It's havoc. It's chaotic. And I want you to, we've had bad news before in our lives. We've been given a bad report. We've had our spouse come home and break our hearts. We've had our children end up in places they didn't need to be. We've seen people with IVs and it's broken our hearts. So we have to stop and think these people are waking up. And this rain that we're getting, we can complain about it. Oh, my hair. And that was me this morning. My hair. Just gets all frazzled. But we have people they don't know what they're going to do. We got people staying in churches. We got people staying in warehouses. We got people staying in their cars. We got adjusters right now. I got a text message from an adjuster. I was talking with him. I called him. And I said, what are you doing? His name's Barry. And I said, what are you doing? He says, I'm just waiting, man. But they ain't got nowhere to go. They ain't got nowhere to stay. Farm hadn't even set up an office yet because it's that tore up. Now, if you know Pastor Richard, raise your hand. Hallelujah, you're blessed already. He is out doing boat rescues. He's out helping people get their lives back together. So we're going to designate some of that to him. If you don't know Pastor Rocky, that's okay because I know Pastor Rocky. Pastor Rocky and Pastor Richard do some work together, but Pastor Rocky has his own ministry. Pastor Rocky has actually got about 14 guys between 12 and 14. They're going to get up and get out in the community. And they're going to start rebuilding homes. They're going to bring food and water and whatever. Not like they need more water, but clean water. They're going to bring food and water and supplies. And we asked them, what is it that you need? He says, well, we'll probably need gas, and we'll probably need some for themselves to eat a little bit, but to also be able to buy things to give: shovels, nails, hammers, sheetrock, tape and flow, paneling, insulation. These are things that they're going to need. If water comes 5 feet high, you got to cut 6 to 8 feet of drywall out. So there's all the way the parameter of the house. Are the boards good enough to be reused? See, devastation hits, and when it hits, it has no mercy. It's relentless, and some of us have lived through that. If you don't know who Pastor Rocky is, look up Shiloh Ministries. Shiloh Ministries in Liberty, Texas. He started a rehab. It's a year-long program, and he brings people in, and God bless, he does it free of charge. You just got to sit there for a year. Okay, but he has a heart to serve, and he understands what it's like to be devastated because he was there himself. So that's the other ministry that we're going to help fund so that they can give back to their communities. They were hit the hardest, and the reason why we're, not just because we know them, but they're in areas of Houston that they're not going to be under the spotlight. They're kind of on the outlying, places of was it suburbs, whichever you want to call it, rural areas, and so they don't get hit right away because they're going to start at the heart and they're going to work their way out, right? And when they work their way out, you could be the last one to get served. And believe me, I was there when Katrina hit, Rita hit. Not a pretty sight. It was so hot and muggy, the floor was sweating. The floor was saying, ooh, it's hot. And it's just nasty. And I don't know if you've ever been locked up in a room with 12 guys, with no showers. No. Yeah, took you there. All right, okay? So if you want to give to Texas, you got to designate that. It's not too late to reach in and grab if you got to. We're fine with that. We understand that, okay? If you don't, well, hey, we'll talk.
Share the Facebook page.
And share the Facebook page. Yeah, share the Facebook page. And just sometimes you got to think about how you would feel. where you would be at. And I love that. I love the wording in there. Where would you go? What would you do? All right. Then, before we get to the message, if you go to the back table, there are flyers for the church in the park next week. And then there's also flyers for the movie night at U-Turn in Terry's house. I'll be there. I'll be with the kids watching the movie with the cookies. But grab some, hand them out, and advertise a little bit. We did meet with the park and recreation guy. He's excited until we told him the biker ministry was coming. What? I said, listen, they're like the ex-pagans. I'm just saying. They got chains and whips, man. They're going to have prospects out here all over. What? I didn't tell him all that, but I wanted to. But anyways, he said, should I worry? I said, you should always worry. No, don't worry. It's in vain. But anyways, I'm going to be down there at between 7 and 7:30. I'm not asking you to be down there that early, but I'm asking you to be down there that early because we may need some help. I'll be bringing generators and some tables and chairs and whatnot, getting the music situated where they need to be, helping set up the petting zoo because I just like animals. I'm going to try to adopt one probably. Look, Wendy, I got a petting pig. I got a pig. You know, everybody saw the Facebook picture of me and the pig, right? So anyways, I'm just saying, come on down, get some rest, guys. Pray the night before, pray all week for your strength in your own message. Not my message, not Wendy's message. Definitely not, I'm just kidding, Jerry's message. But get your own message built up that you're going to share. What did God do for you? What is Truth United Ministries about? Why are we even doing this? It's not just so we get together and have hot dogs. Well, it is for me and Jerry. But for other people, it's so that we can spread the word. So that we can spread the word. We're going to have a CR table. We're going to have a prayer table. And we're going to have a table that's going to show, or it's going to expose the community to sex trafficking. Why? You need, listen, I was downtown Philly, and I've shared this story. A young lady pulls up and she says, excuse me, sir, do you know where this address is? And I said, well, no, I don't. I'm looking I'm in not a very good part of Philly. And I said, what are you looking for? She says, a modeling agency. It's like 2 blocks from here. And I'm like, probably not in this neighborhood. See, you got to know where your family members are. You got to tell people where you're at so that you don't just come up missing one day. I'd hate to, can you turn that down, please? I'd hate to see one of you guys just here today and gone tomorrow. Okay, so that's all I got about the news. Everybody good? Got any questions? Okay. Last but not least, with a heavy heart, we need to pray for Stan and Helen Carroll. They have a new vision, and they've chosen to follow that new vision. And we're going to bless them with prayer, and we're going to miss them, and the influence that they had with us, and we just give them love, okay? People, listen, we're allowed to change roads. That's why they got 2 lanes. If you don't like this one, pass it around, right? I'm going to. But listen, we got to love on them. We got to bless them, and pray that God directs what they need to do, and give them strength to carry out the mission that they've been called to do. Okay, because I'll tell you what, we needed strength. We needed prayer. And like I shared Friday, when we walked in here, we didn't know how things were going to turn out, and we still don't always know how things are going to turn out. I always pray, Lord, just bring who you need to bring and give me the words to say. And he says, oh, I'll give you the words, all right. So people prayed for us, okay? We were welcomed by certain people. And it makes a big difference, okay? So that's it. You good? All right, we'll see you guys next Sunday. Oh, hey. Now, don't laugh at my sexy glasses here. I had to borrow them because I can't find mine. Ken bought me a pair, and I can't find that. Wendy bought me a pair, and I can't find that. Are they black or brown?
They're the same place that all the left socks in the world go.
They are. You ever wonder how that happens? You put socks in the dryer, you put 10 pairs in, you come back with 9.5. And you're the one that did the laundry? That makes no sense to me. That makes no sense to me. Yeah. It's kind of like going to the refrigerator after your kids go in there and you find like there's like a half a drink. What's a half a drink? But half a drink of milk. Just like what is this? Well, I didn't know if you wanted some. Well, what am I going to wet one cornflake with that? I'm just wondering, you know. Or the broken chips in the bag and they get rolled up and put back. All personal arguments. Listen, I read out of the New Living Translation. And I encourage you, if you don't understand your Bible, get a children's Bible. Get something. Get a coloring book about the Bible. Do something so that you can get the Word of God in you. All right? And I'm going to be reading out of John. Well, actually, we're going to be reading out of James, but we're going to start in John. And we're going to break it down. I don't know much about God. The more that I study, the more I realize I don't know much about God, and I don't always know what to say about God. Sometimes I just got to sit back and let God do His own talking. God knew I had a heavy heart, but He left me with a promise. God knew I had a very heavy heart, and He left me with a promise, and He put His Son on the cross for me, and that was the promise. He showed me hope and glory and salvation through His Son. See, I didn't know enough about God to know that I could be saved. I didn't know enough about God to know that my shackles could be broken. I don't know enough about God to say that every day I'm the strongest man in the world. But I know His character. I do know His character. And I know His character never leaves me nor forsakes me. I know that His character is a light to my feet. I know that His character always shows me the right road to take, but He leaves the choice up to me. Deuteronomy 30:19. He says, I call to heaven and earth as a witness, right? And He says that you have a choice to make, life or death, blessings or curses. And what does He say? I urge you to choose life. I urge you to choose blessings. Why would anybody choose anything else? Have you ever thought about that? I listen to people with such full of anger, bitterness, and rage, and I listen to the things that they choose in life. Well, you know, I'm just going to serve the enemy. Well, why would you serve the enemy of your life? You just said it. I'm going to serve the enemy. Okay, well, if he's the enemy, he's the enemy to you as well. Why would you serve him? See, and we have to look at the world through different eyes, and we have to stop and let God renew our vision. How many people in here would like new vision? Just put your hands up. There you go. You love new vision, wouldn't you? You'd like to be able to see things the way God sees things. And I tell you what, if you could see the things the way He sees it, it'd break your heart, what breaks His heart, but you'd fall in love with the same thing that broke His heart. Which is people. Just humans. So He loves people. He loves to serve them. Have you ever thought about that? The Creator of the universe serves you. He convicts your heart to bring you in, and then He serves you with what? What do you pray for daily? Lord, bless my household, bless me, bless my job, bless my marriage, bless my health, you know, what finances? And He says, listen, I can do that. But we gotta come in agreement. So you got the Creator of the universe who comes down from heaven, sits right next to you and says, I can serve you. All you gotta do is serve me. It's a give and take relationship. It's kind of like marriage. Give and take. Jerry, watch it now. Play what George says. Easy, easy. All right. So I don't know much about God, but I know that I had a heavy heart, and He left me with a promise. If you'll turn with me now to John 11:25, and the promise says, He says, I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live even after dying. Let me hold this up so I can really see what I'm doing here. And it says, everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never, ever die. And He looks to Martha and He says, do you believe this? I don't know much about my God and everything that He does daily. But when I had a heavy heart, He left me with a promise. How did I come up with the title was, I had a heavy heart. There were things going on around me that I couldn't figure out. There was decisions to be made. And this was just about a week ago when Harvey hit. And I sat and I thought, and I said, I understand that the phone call is going to come through any minute now. And they're going to say, we got a place for you, but it's in Texas. I had a heavy heart. Because I knew what my answer was going to be. We could only go one way or the other. And most likely it was going to go one way. And it was going to be towards God. And when they gave me the mandate of what it would have to come out to be, I had a heavy heart with my answer saying, I can't do that. And they said, why? I said, because I got to stand by what I've started physically, but what God has started in me spiritually, and I can't walk away from that. And I'm sorry. And then there was that tone. Oh, okay. But when the ground, when they realized that I was going to stand my ground, I just wasn't going to bend or break, things started happening. God started moving. See, I don't understand a lot about God, but I know one thing. He never leaves me or forsakes me. I know that my pot never runs empty. I know that the blessings are always there. I know that the oil is overflowing. I know that I'm blessed and anointed to live for God. I know that the words that come out of my mouth will always reflect a life given to God. So I woke up the next day and I said, well, I got another plan. So I posed the plan. I said, what about this? And it came through. And the phone rang and I got offered a position. And that position is to stay home and help out still with Harvey. But before the conversation started, and Wendy, as a witness, was there, she could hear you. Listen, this lady, you can't help it. She talks really loud. Her famous words, hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. I And she says, listen, I understand you want to be part of the team, and I'm so glad to have you back on the team because I helped before. And she says, but before we go any further, I want to tell you one thing. I commend you for standing your ground, for standing by what you believe. And she said, and listen, on Sunday, when you got to do what you got to do, your spiritual obligation, we can work that out because you're going to get paid for that. That is the blessing of God.
Yes.
See, when you walk in, you say, Lord, it doesn't matter what happens, what the doctor says. I'm going to stand by you and by what your word says. And God says you're relieved of that burden that's been taken away. When you walk in and you don't know what your spouse is going to say, and you sit down and say, honey, we've got to talk. And he puts his hand on top of yours and says, don't worry about it. I love you. I'm not going anywhere. That's the blessings of God. So we read, and he says, his promise was, I am the resurrection of life. Anyone who believes in me will live even after dying. That means you have a chair waiting for you in heaven at the great table of the buffet. I can't wait to get there because they said the grapes are this big. Yeah, baby. And it says, everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never, ever die. And then he looks at Martha and he says, do you believe this? Because see, her brother had just passed away, Lazarus. And he said, he's just asleep. He's just asleep. And I was touched this Friday when I went to a funeral, and I had the opportunity to share a few words about a lady that I only knew for however long we've been in this building. And I was touched because what started out to seem to be a downtrodden, maybe a depressed kind of setting, ended in being a rejoicing and joyful setting. And it wasn't because of anything I did. It wasn't anything because of what they did. It was of what she did, but it was what God did through her in other people in that room. And they were able to lift her up and say, but her smile, but her acceptance, but her love. And I thought, but Lord, but your smile, your acceptance, and your love. And I started thinking about what God had done for me in my life and how I had been blessed because of his smile, his love, and his acceptance. Because even when my own family wouldn't accept me, God accepted me. And I think he's done that for each and every one of us. Now, if you will, go back a couple pages and we're going to read John 8:12. I hear you, Biddy. It's a good one. John 8:12, and it says, Jesus spoke to the people once more and said, I am the light of the world. If you will follow me, you won't have to walk in darkness because you will have the light that leads to life. The light that leads to life. How many people here, if I say the word life, you get a picture in your brain? Just something pops in your brain. Life. How about if I say, what's your life like? What's your life about? How has your life been? Is your life good? Right? People say, he had a good life. He had a good life. Well, what does that mean, he had a good life? Because your good life and my good life could be totally different. You know, I got cousins out there running amok. This is the good life, and they got pistols, and this ain't no good life, sucker. You know what I'm saying? Some people, they enjoy being shackled to the wall. I don't. So you got to stop. What is a good life? I didn't know what a good life was. I shared in our life group that when I had to make choices, how to make a good choice, I didn't know how to make. I thought I was making good choices. I wasn't hurting anybody. I wasn't, stealing from anybody. But I was, when Deuteronomy talks about choose life or blessings, curses or death, my dad had showed me the opposite. Choose what would kill you, basically. I was raised in a matter of, hey, it's all up to you. Do what you want. Gain pleasure now, reap the reward later, or the curse later. So I didn't know how to choose a life. So I think in order to understand how to choose a life, we've got to see what a good life is. How many people would like to see that? All right, turn to James. Okay. Go ahead, turn to James. We're going to turn to James, and we're going to read 3, and I'm going to read 13 through 16 for you. See, but what is a life with God? I need to know what life is without God to understand what life is with God. All right, so are you ready? James 3, and I'm reading 13 through 16. And it says, if you are wise and understand God's ways, prove it by living an honorable life, doing good works with humility that comes from wisdom. How many people think you got a little wisdom going on here? I think I got a little wisdom. How do you gain wisdom? How do you gain wisdom? You have to be apply knowledge. You have to be exposed to something, then you have to apply it in your life. You can't just say, I mean, you can read a book and have a little bit of knowledge, but until you apply it and fail, succeed, succeed, fail, fail, succeed, ups, downs, a righteous man may fall 7 times, but he gets up. See, until you start getting back up again, you never really have any wisdom. You've got to apply what's being taught to you. That's how you gain wisdom. I can't step into Eddie's shoes and do what he does. I have no wisdom in that area. Plus, I'd look just funny being a rapper. Could you picture me being a rapper? Come on, Eddie. You know I couldn't do it. He's got hope for me. I'm sure he does. But see, wisdom. It comes by the application of whatever you're trying to learn. So you can come in here and learn the word, but until someone comes in, maybe is indifferent to that, there is no wisdom because you've never got a chance to use it. So I can practice in the mirror all day long. I'm just convincing myself I've got to get out there and gain some wisdom. So let's just say I was out there doing boat rescues like Pastor Richard's doing. I gain a little wisdom about the preciousness of life and how fragile it truly is. And there's one comment he made that gave me a little understanding about what he's going through. He said, these people were warned. They were told, get out. And like they've done in many other hurricanes in their life, they said, no, I'm just going to stay right here. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. So now, other people are risking their lives to save their life. Because they didn't heed the warning. And now they're freaking out, going, where's everybody at? When are we going to get saved? Sucker, why didn't you leave? What are you doing? How many times have you been there in your life and things that people have said, don't do that, and you kept on doing it, and then other people had to risk their life to come save you? Well, all they did was drive across town. Well, you don't know what could have happened between then and there. You don't know the stress that put on their relationship or their finances. You don't know who was in prayer for you when you were out there strung out on the streets. You don't know what people were praying for you when you were looking like you were just insane. So I like that. He said, now other people are risking their lives to save their life, whom they were warned. That brings all kinds of stories out of the Bible, doesn't it? And if I stop and reflect on my own life, things that people told me not to do, how they had to risk their own sanity at times to help save mine. Sleepless nights. But God says, if whoever believes in me, and that was the promise. And then if we go to James, we're going to read down from 17 to 18 now. I'm sorry, I didn't even finish the other one, did I? It says, but if you are bitterly jealous, and then, this is 14, if you are bitterly jealous and there is selfish ambition in your heart, don't cover up the truth with boasting and lying. For jealousy and selfishness are not God's kind of wisdom. Such things are earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For wherever there is jealousy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and evil of every kind. Number 17 says, but the wisdom from above is first of all pure. It is also peace-loving, gentle at all times, and willing to yield to others. It is full of mercy and good deeds. It shows no favoritism, and it is always sincere. And those who are peacemakers will plant seeds of peace and reap a harvest of righteousness. So we can reap any kind of harvest in this life. And I was talking with a guy over the phone about a year and a half ago from Louisiana. And we were talking about past events that happened. Past hurricanes, past hailstorms. I mean, that's the business I'm in, right? And it's funny. We're praying for havoc. Right. Please, Lord, let there be a big hurricane. It just doesn't make sense, right? And then I'm in here saying, pray for their lives, you know. But we were talking about these things. And I said, why do you think this one area seems to always, get hit in this state? And he says, I'll tell you why. He says, because they live lawlessly. He goes, they live without any law. They don't have any thought to the repercussion of what they're doing. He said they keep going out and living the same way that their ancestors lived, and they keep expecting something different, and then they panic when it hits the fan, and they don't know how to get themselves out of it. And then they feel like nobody cares. But really, God's giving them warning after warning. Do you know, he keeps destroying this state, this one area in this state. He keeps destroying it over and over and over again, and they keep rebuilding it, and it's never as good as it used to be, because, you know, as soon as they get that last nail in, here comes another. They're like, yeah! Just tears it up. At one point, you got to just say, you know, forget about it. If anybody knows, does anybody know what sistering is? When you sister lumber, right? So like you'll have one board that runs this way, and it gets a break in it, and you just put a board right there, right? So the break is still there, but now you just kind of put a crutch on it, and it's supposed to be strong, but really you just sistered it in. You haven't taken away the problem. You've just kind of covered it up. You know what I mean? And so they keep covering up their problem, and they keep trying to sister other things into it to make it look better than it was, but really it's still just as weak as it was, and it hadn't been changed at all. Can I get it? Can you hear what I'm saying? See, sometimes we just sister things in and cover up. That's what he said. Don't cover your lies and whatnot. Don't try to put truth on that. You can't do that. Be honest. I got some things going on in my life, and I need a little help. Come back home to Jesus. I talked to somebody last week, and he said, you know, I was breaking it down on what happened and what didn't happen and how it happened. And he said, I realized we got a little too religious. We got a little too strict. And that's what started the momentum of a downfall. He said, and he was talking about sermons. And he said, but I remember a couple of your sermons, and he says that you always end with, if you need Jesus, come back. That's where it's at, guys. You've got to come back to Jesus. You've got to come back to where he started and where he ended. So you got to walk that road with him. However that takes you and however that long that is, that's where we begin our life with God. He says, those who accept my Son now accept me. Jesus says, you'll never know the Father unless you know me. And the Father knows the Son. So it's kind of like knowing that, you know, we've said this before, it's like knowing that toughest guy out there that you know he's got your back, but you got to know him. Because he's not just going to back you. You got to know him. And I think we'll all, and I really do believe that saying, you'll be amazed at who makes it and who makes it and who doesn't make it. Pastor Richard told me one day, you're going to get into ministry, the people you thought were going to stay will leave, and the ones you thought or wanted to leave will stay. So put them to work. So you just put them to work. All right? Okay. Now it says, God had to reveal myself to me. I wrote this down. What changed Josh's life? What changed my life was God had to reveal me to myself. He had to show me who I was at the moment, but who I was designed to be. See, if you don't ever know who you're designed to be, you never have a goal to make it, right? It's kind of like we say, you can't get, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die to get there. No, don't let me die today. Why? I mean, you may just go home. You know, I mean, so we got to stop and think about that, right? He has to reveal where you're at and then show you where you're supposed to be so that you can accept what he has for you, right? So turn to James 4 and we'll read 2 through 3. You ready? Man, you guys are quiet. You can shout. It's okay. You can raise your hands. You can throw the Bible at me. I'm okay with that. James 4, 2 through 3. And it says, you want what you don't have, so you scheme and kill to get it. If you're jealous of what others have, okay, it says you are jealous of what others have, but you can't get it, so you fight and wage war to take it away from them. I like this part right here. It says, yet you don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it. Now, how many people would say, no, I've been asking God for it? How many people would say, I've been asking God for it? You've been asking God for it? All right, and it says right here, it says, and even when you ask, you don't get it because your motives are all wrong. You want only what will give you pleasure. Now, let's stop and think about that for a minute. How many things have we prayed for? Oh, Lord, please, Lord, just give me a raise at work. You're not even thinking about what to do with that money other than that car you saw at the car lot. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Lord, if they would just fall in love with me. You're not thinking about love. You're thinking about what's behind that bedroom door. See what I'm saying? Or give me favor at work, Lord. Just give me favor at work so I could be blessed and be a blessing to others. That's not what you're thinking about, that raise you're going to get. He says, your motives are all wrong. Lord, if you would just keep this from happening, then I'll do this. We start making deals with God. God's not a deal maker. It's either this way or it's that way. And I love that. He says, you don't have what you want because what you're asking for, you have some motives that just aren't right. So we have to check our motives. How do we draw close to God? We check our motives. What do you want God for in your life? And I've asked this to a couple different churches. What do you come to church for on Sunday? What is church for you? What is God to you? What is Jesus to you? What does it matter if we serve Him? What does it matter if I pray? I don't know about you. I have to agree with one of my older mentors. I don't know how prayer always works, but it works. I'm not sure how it works sometimes, but it works. I'm always reminded of a day when I was sitting there and, I'm supposed to be in a place to get help, and I thought it'd be cool. And this one guy graduated before me, but he was allowed to stay on the property. So he came back and he had it. Man, it shined. It was beautiful too, because we didn't have them. We weren't allowed to have them. We weren't allowed to have them until we got home. But he came back and he had this nice flip-top cell phone. And I only got one phone call a week to Wendy. And I thought, man. So I walked over there and said, hey, Kenny, how you doing? His name was Kenny. And I said, how you doing, man? He's like, I'm good. I'm good. And he was one of those guys, like, he just really didn't care for rules. He went through the program to appease some people. And I said, hey, man, I got 3 Walmart cards. Can I use your cell phone? And he was like, sure. But you ain't got to give me your Walmart cards. Yeah, go ahead. He said, who are you going to call? I'm going to call my wife. I called her and said, honey, you wouldn't believe it, but I got some grace from the pastor today. Oh, I got to use the phone to call you. I just want to tell you I love you, and this and that. And she's like, oh, that's amazing. And I called another friend, just kind of talk, hey, Jerry, what's up, man? And we, just talking back and forth. And, man, where you been? I said, oh, you'd never guess it. I'm in a rehab. He said, rehab's for quitters. I said, I know. That's why it took me so long to get here. I wasn't ever going to quit. Well, it didn't stop there. It didn't stop there. See, my motives were wrong. So then Kenny, he sparks up one of them nice, beautiful cancer sticks, man. Sorry, don't mean to offend nobody. And I thought, man, I could use one of those. So I said, can I get a cigarette? He said, sure. I said, I smoked one, coughed my lungs out, got dizzy, nearly passed out, woke up with dirt in my mouth because I fell down because I got dizzy. Cigarette was still like that. If you know my race, we won't drop a cigarette or... We'll fall down. Didn't spill a drop. But anyways, time went on, and all of a sudden we have a city meeting, right? A town hall meeting, and the pastor calls all the students in, and if you knew Pastor Rocky, he comes shuffling in, and his voice, and he said, guys, I'm sorry to tell you, but I'm just a little ticked off. And that wasn't exactly what he said, but look here. Some of you guys think you're going to outsmart God, and you think you're going to get things past Him, and He ain't going to tell me. And just remember now, I serve a good God. And I said, oh, here we go. He's going to talk about painting the house. He's going to talk about something. I wasn't even thinking about me. And all of a sudden he says, somebody in here has been using cell phones, calling home, and somebody been smoking cigarettes. You ever been to one of those services where you think the pastor's looking right at you? And you're thinking, that fool done hacked into my computer and read all my emails and saw them pictures. So we're sitting there and he says, I'm going to leave it up to you guys. And he put this one on us. But if you don't confess, everybody's going to suffer. Oh, God, no. And being who I was, absolutely, I didn't say a word. Oh, that sucks. And I walked out. And then there was that one guy. Couldn't handle it. They lit the candle under his feet. They started touching his fingernails. They plucked an eyebrow. Maybe they pulled an eyelash. I don't know. They pulled his hair a little bit. He gave in and he said, it was Noriega. He did it. It was all him. He was standing right next to me doing the same thing. And I just got thrown on. Listen, I had bus marks going back and forth. Back. But the thing was, my motives were wrong. I wanted to bless Wendy with a phone call, but really I was being selfish. I wanted what I wanted. I wanted to prove that I could get what I wanted. So we had another town hall meeting. And the pastor goes, guys, I'm just so upset with y'all. I wish you guys would just be honest with yourself. You're not lying to anybody but yourself anyways, and your family's going to be upset anyways. And I wish you'd just come forward and just be honest. So I just said, you know what, I did it. I raised my hand, and he goes, I thought he knew. I really did thought he knew more than what he thought. And he goes, Noriega, you was on the phone too? So I usually goes, you? I said, oh, God, such high plans for you. So anyways, we started going back and forth on what the punishment was going to be, and it was going to be, takeaway visits. It was going to be, no phone calls. Of course, I went and campaigned. You're not going to harm my family and take something away from them for what I did. And what he said was, but your sin affects other people. What you do affects your family. The way you act affects them. And he goes, but ultimately it affects their point of view on God. It affects the way that they receive his love and his glory, because of things that get taken away. Now they could say, well, if God was a good God, why can't I talk to my dad? Why can't I? So we went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Well, one of the things that came out of it was not only did I have to trim all his hedges, that boy had a lot of hedges. I'm like, why do you got to, come on, man. We live out in the middle of nowhere. Why do you need hedges? You know? And then paint his house. And the paint your trim, I mean, you just had I knew you had that trim painted 3 months ago because somebody else got in trouble. Why do I got to paint it again? And then, you know, Weedy down by Hockey Creek. Hockey Creek was this creek that just rolled right through the, Weedy, what? It's a creek. Listen, I slid down the embankment with my weed eater in front of me, slid right into a poison ivy patch. Oh. Yeah, that'll teach you. See, you got to pay back for what you've done, right? So anyways, one of the things was I had to tell Wendy what I did. So I did. Now, you know she had some beautiful choice words for me. You know my wife, right? She let me know exactly how beautiful and great I was, and deciding to take that phone and smoke those cigarettes. And so I got this letter, and it was full of, you want to know of what my life is like since you're over there because of your decisions to keep following drugs and alcohol and to keep going down that road? You want to know what it's like for me to be a single dad? Single dad. She used the word father and mother, right? Single dad and a single mom. She says, you want to know what it's like for me to raise your children and take them to school and do these things because you're not here to help me and to still carry on a full career? Do you want to know what it's like for me? Man, I was like 8 feet tall until I read that letter. I was like, you know, just holding on to pant legs, you know. You know, she hates me. She's never gonna love me, you know. And I thought, man, I really messed up big here. And so I thought, well, you know, what can I do? And I started a certain thing in my life to kind of get some breakthrough. And the next thing I know, I'm out in the woods praying. And I don't know how prayer works, and I don't know a lot about God. But I know when I had a heavy heart, he left me with a promise. And he says, those who lean on me will find the shelter they need. And they'll find the direction that they need to go in. So I started praying one day, and I was praying heavily praying, just, Lord, I'm sorry. It was like my second day of prayer, and I was just like, you know, listen. And I finally just stopped. I said, look, do what you're going to do. Take it where you're going to take it. Let it happen, whatever's going to happen. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it again. I said, but look, okay, if she's that mad, no problem. I understand what I did was wrong. And I kid you not, the wind was blowing my hair back this way, and all of a sudden my hair went this way. And I remember, whoa, and I put my hand down on the table, and I said, Lord, you just did something. You just did something. I don't know what it is, but you just did something. That was about 12 o'clock. About 1 o'clock, I was cleaning the pantry, and I'm wiping down this refrigerator, and I'm stocking cans, because, you know, obviously I was in charge of the kitchen. And how many people remember Old Spice? Don't you just love Old Spice? Every night I used to go smell my grandfather's, and he'd be like, "Yo, oh yeah, you smell my cologne?" I said, "No, it's all over you." Because once you touch the bottle, it's like it's like a disease. Man. You walk out like, "You ain't never gonna know I touched that bottle." And my tias and my aunts and my uncles all stick their head up. "Oh yeah, you touched Wilito's cologne?" I said, "No, I didn't." But there was like a cloud of Old Spice behind me. You know what I'm talking about. And, so anyways, I smelled Old Spice, and I thought, oh, good, Grandpa came to visit me. And I turned around, and there's Pastor Rocky with a toothpick. How you doing, Joshua? And his flip-flops and those shorts that men should never wear, and an old T-shirt. And he says, hey, how's it going for you? I said, oh, it's going all right. He said, how's Wendy? I said, she's doing good, man. He said, you know, you read the letter. Because he opened all her mail. I was like, man, thank God. There's nothing in there that's personal, you know. But he reads all your mail. And so he goes, yeah, I read that letter. It wasn't too easy for you, was it? I said, no, it was kind of hard. And so we talked a little bit. And he said, I noticed you've been escaping out on lunch the past couple of days. I said, yeah, I haven't been eating lunch. I've been going to prayer and just kind of. He said, what you praying about? He goes, you praying about your marriage? I said, I prayed a little bit about that. He said, you pray about the situation that you put yourself in? I said, I've been praying a little bit about that. I said, but really I've been praying about my heart. Lord, just work on my heart. Get me where you want me to be. He said, that's good. He goes, where'd you go today? I said, well, I went and sat over there by Hockey Creek. The reason why they call it Hockey Creek is because they believe that when you flush the toilet, the hockey flows. No. That's why it's called Hockey Creek. So when I fell in there, you know I was scrambling to get back up to the end. You know. So anyways, he says, look, while he was praying, he goes, what time was that? I said, it was about 12 o'clock. He said, Wendy called me at 11:55. And she talked. And she talked. He said, it had to be about 5 after 12. She said, to tell you, she loves you. She's not going to leave you. She's not going to walk away from you. That she understands that you're just goofy. But she's going to stand by your side. I don't know how prayer works, but I got my visits, got my phone calls, got my family back. I don't always know how God does what he's going to do. But I know if we stand true and we use wisdom to guide us, we'll make it. I tried to write a sermon about a week ago for this week. And with everything going on, I kept getting sidetracked. Squirrel! I hope you got something out of the wisdom and guidance of what God's trying to give us in our ambitions and what we pray for. So we can pray for a lot of things here today. And we're about to take communion, so if you guys are ready. We're going to take communion and give grace and bless God. But we have to check our hearts. We have to see where we're at. Why is it that we want what we want? What is it that we're doing and why? Who are we trying to impress? What are we trying to give back? God gave us so much. And it's much more than we can really see. And men in this room, it's time for us to stand up to the plate and make a home run. Okay? And women, sometimes we just got to let the reins go and say, do it, man. Run with it. You know, I'm not trying to tell you how to lead your marriage. I'm not telling you where to take your marriage. I'm not telling you how to lead your relationships. I'm just saying it's time. You know, I was looking at some old pictures of a boss of mine, James Bowden, and he was posting pictures of Vietnam. And then I thought, a lot of our young men, they don't know what that's like. To have to fight for something that you don't even know why you might even be fighting for that. But it's time for us as men to understand our role in the picture, in the scheme of things. It's time for us to help our women understand who they are and what they are. I don't know much about God, but I know when I had a heavy heart, he left me with a promise, and that promise has come to pass. And it's still coming to pass. So if we could, let's get ready for communion.